I wish I could tell you that the saving stops once you have a big enough deposit, but unfortunately it doesn't.
Sydney property prices are continuing to surge.
The value of a standard home is now jumping by more than $1,000 a week.
There are hidden fees in everything you pay for.
There are quite a few extra, often seemingly hidden costs that you need to be aware of, which aren't necessarily highlighted in the real estate ads. Depending on the price of the property and the state or territory where you are buying the property, upfront and hidden costs can add up to 5% of the purchase price, making it extremely important that you're prepared for these costs. I see way too many investors and other home buyers getting rattled by these extra costs because they're just not prepared. A pretty simple way to account for these costs is to add 5% on top of your deposit requirements. So, if you've spoken to a broker or a lender and established that you're willing to lend you 90% of the purchase price, you'll need a 10% deposit plus an extra 5% of costs. That means you'll need to save up at least 15% of the purchase price for the property that you want. But either way, to help you plan ahead, I'm going to break down 12 of the costs that you must be ready to pay upon settling on your property, so that you're not hit with a nasty surprise. Right, let's jump straight into the first one, stamp duty. Outside the deposit, this will be your biggest upfront cost.
First home buyers will pay little or no stamp duty.
Billions of dollars in stamp duty.
Stamp duty is pushing the dream of owning a home further.
Also sometimes referred to as land transfer tax, stamp duty is a state government tax that you pay on the transfer of the property. The amount of stamp duty you'll have to pay varies quite a lot from state to state and territory to territory, and some even have exemptions for first-time homeowners who plan on living in the property. It is approximately 3.5% conservatively, but check out government websites of your state or territory. Without exemptions, for a $500,000 property, you're looking at roughly $21,000 in South Australia and Victoria, close to $18,000 in New South Wales, and around $13,500 in Western Australia. But you should know that the various schemes change almost yearly, so you'll need to check and double check. Next up are legal and conveyancing fees. These fees for a licensed conveyancer to review your contract, perform checks on the title, and draft the settlement documents. They basically do all the paperwork. Depending on the complexity of the transfer and the purchase price, it'll cost between $1,600 and $4,000. Number 3 on the list is the goods and service tax, or GST. This fee doesn't necessarily apply to people buying into a residential property for occupational purposes. But it's worth mentioning the ATO considers those who buy and sell property to generate an income to be running a business, and GST will then become applicable. GST also applies to the sale of new property or property that has been subdivided. So a property developer who is selling new or subdivided properties will have to pay GST on the transaction. Land sales may also attack GST obligations. But this is a relatively complex area of tax, so I'd highly recommend that you consult a qualified property tax accountant to help establish whether GST applies to you or not. The next group of expenses relates to your home loan application, valuation, and mortgage registration fees. Loan application or establishment fees are the costs associated with setting up a loan with a lender. Generally, the fees will depend on the lender, the loan amount, and some other factors. Some lenders will even waive these types of fees under certain circumstances, but you should be prepared to pay anything between $600 and $1,000. You'll also incur valuation costs when you obtain finance from a lender for a commercial property or specialised residential property. And then, mortgage registration and transfer fees are the costs associated with formally registering a mortgage and transferring the property ownership. The costs for each differ between states. Some charge a set fee, while others are on a sliding scale. In South Australia, for example, you're looking at around $150 mortgage registration fees and a transfer fee of over $4,000. The 7th additional cost is building and pest inspections. A building inspection is an assessment of a property's condition done by a qualified inspector, usually before putting in an offer on a property, although an offer can be made conditional on one. It covers everything from faulty roofs to rising damp and cracked walls, and generally includes information on whether these faults can be repaired and how much repairs would cost.
An urgent warning about termites.
Termite invasion,
Millions of termites have eaten them out of house and home.
despite thinking they were protected.
A lot of buyers ask their inspectors to check for pest damage during the inspection too. This usually costs a little extra, but is generally advisable given the extensive damage termites and other pests can cause. If you're buying into a strata property, it's important to get a physical body corporate inspection report. This identifies any issues with the specific lot or common property. It will also notify you of any planned special levies to be imposed after settlement. The cost of a building and pest inspection varies from state to state, and inspectors operating in metropolitan areas generally charge more than those working in regional areas, but they'll usually come in around $600. And then the last group of expenses are miscellaneous fees, like lender's mortgage insurance if your deposit is less than 20%, water and council rates on the settlement date, and insurance and body corporate fees. So there's the list of additional expenses you need to be prepared for. But as I mentioned earlier in this video, a general rule of thumb is to add 5% of the purchase price on top of your deposit. That way, you should be covered and you won't be hit with any unexpected costs that you cannot afford. Well, that's it from me. If you found this video useful, make sure to like and subscribe and share this video with your friends and family who are also in the market for a property. I'm Steve Palise, author of Residential and Commercial Property Investing Explained Simply. Cheers.